Welcome back, Pathless Peddlers, to another episode of PLP Talks, where we talk to interesting bikey people about interesting bikey things. If you're new to the series, we've had some awesome guests. Last week, we interviewed Martina Brimmer. We've spoken to Jay Peterberry, Nam, Sarah Swallow, Kurt Refsnyder. So lots of really cool people doing interesting things in the biker world. And today is no different. We've got a special guest. He's known for having many names. I think he's been called everything from Janet, Janae, Johnny, UltraRomance, Poppy. But today we're going to call him Benedict. So everyone, let's welcome Benedict to PLP Talks. So thanks for thanks for being on the show.
Thank you. Hold your applause, please.
So you
just throw flowers,
right? So you are in sunny Tucson right now, which is a big improvement over Montana here. I think it's like 20 degrees. So what brought you out there?
From what I've gathered in my travels, you can't find a better place in the U.S. than Tucson, Arizona this time of year. Everything else this is the most predictably sunny and dry place that I've encountered. And every time we leave to go somewhere else, we're like, we just should have stayed in Tucson. It's nice and warm.
And the riding's pretty good,
They got a Whole Foods, a Trader Joe's, a Sprouts. What else we got over here, Nams? Natural grocers. Yeah, food co-op, all within a mile of where we're sitting right now.
That's awesome. And the riding in the area is pretty good, too.
Yeah. I get secondary. Yeah, the riding's pretty good. Yeah. So, it's we spent about a month here 2 months here last year, and now we're here for a number of months. So, can't complain. It's a beautiful place. Got some great people here, and it's been drawing in a lot of other people. We've had Cass Gilbert and Leo Wilcox have showed up in the last few weeks, so it's pretty funny. Yeah, and we have Ty Hathaway is here too, and
right.
and then some great bike shops, and then the people who we're staying with are work with Bikeus and everything. So that's been really cool to. Yeah, it's just a big bike community, really, everywhere. I don't know if I'm just not exposing myself to other people or just seeing everyone's in the bike community. Probably awesome. The latter.
Yeah. Cool. Well, let's talk a little bit about kind of your evolution in cycling. So it sounded like early on you were really into racing. What was that point when you were like, this is not for me, and you wanted to explore other things?
My first taste of racing would be when I was in high school. When I was mountain biking it was the 90s, even though I'm 21, it was the 90s. And mountain biking was huge, and all of my heroes, the early mountain bike racers of the day, with Missy Giove and mainly Missy Giove, loved her, still do. And, John Tomac, Ned Overend, Julie Furtado, go on and on. But, they really inspired me to get on the mountain bike and race. Mm-hmm. And I had a mom who was way into it, and she would come to every race and like run alongside me the entire race cheering. And so racing was awesome. Mainly mountain bike racing was awesome and I went to college to do more racing at Fort Lewis College, which I chose the college because of the racing program, and I wanted to be in the Olympics for mountain bike racing. And like the first, I think we had a specific like hill climb to see what category you would fall in on the Fort Lewis College cycling team, and it was A, B, or C. And I remember getting there and not used to I'm used to New England, and I'm used to like the shade and not huge stuff. And so we start up the climb, and I think I made it like halfway up, and I'm just like, fuck this. And I never went to the meeting again. Then I got away into bodybuilding. And bodybuilding for the rest of college was just using cycling as kind of like a way to, for cardio.
Right.
And then after graduating college, I moved to Austin and then started road racing there. And that was a lot of fun with Team Woolly Mammoth that my buddy Patrick and I started. And we kind of made our Cat 5 road racing team into a Euro Pro team. That was the goal. Pretty successful at that. So that was fun for a while until the novelty wore off. And I remember just being like, man, there's got to be more to this. Like, this is not, I'm hanging out with people who are driving their cars to go race bikes. And like, if we want to hang out afterwards, like, hey, let's go get dinner or something, or like, let's get a drink or whatever. And they drive their cars to go get the drink with their bikes, and I'm like, why does everyone not ride? Why does everyone think they need all this fancy stuff to ride bikes? Like, why can't we just ride bikes? And I was kind of like delving a little bit into the Grant Peterson manifestos at that point, and was into that style of bicycle. And I had really drank that down, that you had to have that special shorts, at least at the bare minimum, the special shorts and shoes to ride a bike.
Yeah.
And it was really kind of like dragging on me. I was just like, this isn't fun. What happened to when we were kids and you just used to get on the bike and ride your bike? And that was like a big untraining process, because I didn't really have anyone else other than like reading the Rivendell stuff. I didn't have any other, it was before Instagram and whatnot, where you can just ask questions for so kind of learning a lot of that stuff on your own, but it completely changed cycling entirely for me and brought it back to basics, back to when I really, really enjoyed it, back to when it was like just a special magical thing, and I think I had lost that in all of the training data. And so I kind of rebuilt myself up from that, and touring was I'd done a few tours prior to that, but with a chamois and shoes and
what was your first bicycle tour? You remember?
My first bicycle tour was pretty ill-fated. Spoiler alert. When I graduated college, I tried to. It was right when the Extra Cycle came out, and the manager at the bike shop in Durango let me use one, and I attached it to my mountain bike. And I was really into cross-country mountain biking, so I think the saddle's up here and the stem is down here, just slamming everything. I had a supple back, and so yeah, I attached the Extra Cycle to my mountain bike and just lashed trash bags on. And I remember I had one other guy who I knew who had done a bike tour before, and he came over before I left. I was going to try and ride the Transamerica route, from through Durango and connect to it in Pueblo and go all the way to Virginia. Excuse me. I had a friend in Philadelphia that I was going to visit, so that was my goal, and I was going to try to get there in a month before I started working on the boat. And it was like it was one of those classic moments where you break up with your girlfriend and you're like, I don't know what to do, and I graduated, and I can't stay in Durango, I can't afford this, I'm just going to hit the road or whatever, and I did with my Extra Cycle and trash bags, and I think I had 32-ounce pump of Jergens lotion. Not for what you think. Like 3 pairs of jeans, like all this ridiculous stuff. CD books, that was the main thing. I knew I was like, I'm going to be alone out there. I need to have, so I had those Case Logic CD books, that hold like 80 CDs. I had 2 of those. I didn't know. So yeah, I set out and I knew I had to do 120 miles a day. That was and so like totally unrealistic, but you're young and you don't really know. And so that bike just gradually fell apart throughout the country. And I won't go into details, but yeah, it really fell apart. Lost the CD books like in a ditch, and had one CD left in the CD player, and it was this terrible like Swedish dance pop music, like the only like variation in that I only brought. So I just listened to that till it wore out, and ended up just getting on a bus and taking it to Philadelphia. Yeah, somewhere in St. Louis, I think. And then I was like, I'm done. This is stupid, but I didn't know the alternatives until later on. I don't think I attempted like a longer bike trip, more than a few nights, probably for another 5-6 years.
Yeah. And so there was a bit of an incubation process before you jumped right in again.
yeah, and it's funny because those adventure cycling maps were so paramount to bicycle touring back then. And which wasn't even that long ago if you think about it. I don't, what you use, with how far GPS has come in the last 10 years, it's nuts, to think that you could just go out with those maps. And I don't even remember I had like a little transistor radio to listen to weather. Mm-hmm. Like it sounds like the 50s, doesn't it? Dark ages.
Yeah, touring in the dark ages.
Yeah. Crazy. Yeah. So
cool. Mm-hmm. Well, I listened to your presentation at Philly Bike Expo, and it sounds like you have a real appreciation for the bike as art. If you could name like maybe 2 or 3 like that you feel are like iconic bicycles to you, what would they be?
Certainly the first would be the Rivendell Atlantis, being the first touring bike actual touring bike that I saw, and I was like, whoa, that's something, something to be coveted. Second would be like, as a close second would be something that JP Weigel would build, JP Weigel Randonnée bike. And third, I would put, it would be a mountain bike. Probably the Tinker Juarez's Klein Attitude. I love that one. Yeah.
Cool.
So I've always taken like from those 3 different worlds of like let's say classic MTB or vintage 90s MTB, Grant Peterson and Peter Weigel have definitely been the biggest, what I try to draw on and bring together into what kind of influences my style with bicycle and whatnot.
Cool. Yeah, it seems like a real interesting time in the bike industry, because it wasn't like too long ago, like the brands didn't pay any attention to touring bikes. They were just like, bikes that they used to sell old parts. And now there's been a resurgence. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, it's real funny to think, because you had I remember talking right when my buddy Jared started working for Rivendell, like after he got a job there, right as we were touring down the West Coast a number of years ago. He doesn't work there anymore, but he worked there for 3 or 4 years. Mm-hmm. And right when he first started working there, we were just, because we were way into being Rivendell fanboys. And, stuff was essentially brand new to us, and we were just like, wow, our minds were being blown left and right. And Grant said, like, this is not a quotable because this is secondhand, third hand, or whatever, but touring will never be marketable, and I just was thinking, I was like, I don't know, I really think there's something here, and I think that certainly Eric Nolan with Specialized, when he came through on before he was with Specialized, he was doing a like cross country trip with his wife's, and that's when I met him in Austin. And he came by and then got that job at Specialized, and then the whole AWOL thing happened, and all of a sudden there was like attention on the Radivist, which was then probably
not probably.
and so and all of a sudden I was just like, wow, there really is. I think there's, again, it's like, I think there's something here, and so I think that's kind of like when it all started happening a little bit. And you have the way bicycle trends go. I think the like fixie kids moved to cyclocross, and then start their cyclocross bikes on dirt roads, and then started riding their cyclocross bikes on trails and realized they needed mountain bikes. And then they were like, well, what do we, then, I like camping. I'm going to go camping on my mountain bike and attach a bunch of bags and take a bunch of photos of me drinking coffee somewhere and post them on. Everyone's going to want to do that.
Right.
Because it really is. It's as far as like the social aspect of cycling goes, like, you go on a bike tour with some friends and whatnot, and you get to take a lot of photos and like show them to people, and boy, doesn't that look fun. And it does, because it's great fun. It's like such a denatured form of just childhood fun. That's what you're going out on your bike with your friends. Like, that's what we used to do, and it's undeniable that is universally fun.
Right.
especially when you add in, some cool terrain and some decent food and campfire, and if you well, it's great. It's like having a sleepover that's not like weird.
Yeah. Yeah,
With a
yeah, as adults, it's kind of weird to have a sleepover, or the concept of sleepover, but when you frame it in bike touring, it's okay.
okay. So I think there's a certain part in everybody that that naturally just wants to do that, and so yeah, I think that's that's where we are now with bicycle touring, and it's a wonderful thing because it is it's so all inclusive and so much fun, and but more so than anything, it's led by the GPS revolution. And I guess that's like the real answer to the question, why has bike touring become popular? And that's because people could share their routes, you see, which is good and bad, I suppose, but sharing routes and actually not spending half the time or 3/4 of the time out there being lost and ending at a feeder road like a highway home, like that's paramount to the enjoyment of of cycling. So
yeah, I think that's a trend that we've watched. And talking to bike shops, the gear isn't an issue for most people that are interested in bike touring. It's finding a safe route or a good route to actually use that gear and find people to do it with. So it seems like that technology is kind of filling in that missing gap between like I can buy all the touring stuff to like actually going touring.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So yeah, technology is a huge player in bike touring, which is
it's a little bit ironic. So let's talk a little bit. You touched on the social media side. Let's talk a little bit about the persona of UltraRomance. Did you start that just for fun, or with the intention of creating a global empire? And at what point was it like, whoa, this is becoming a thing?
Well, let's see. I get the origin of the name. I've had that romance as my last name for since high school. When I was in a fantasy metal band called Chivalry. Rubio Romance, the blonde romance. So, and so I've kind of always attached that to my persona throughout my different personas have all had that aspect to it. And so coming to, and it's I think I had an iPhone Touch. What's it called? Yeah, the iPod Touch.
Yeah.
And my friends were taking photos with their iPhones and talking about Instagram, and I was like, "Whoa, what's this?" And they're like, "Dude, it's the only reason to have an iPhone." And so I was like, okay, all right. So it's like MySpace. No. And so I had always taken photos of my friends riding bikes and stuff, throughout my lifetime as a way to especially when I moved to Colorado, to brag to my friends in New England how sweet the riding was, and so I was like, whoa, I was like looking through, I was like, oh, I can do that. And so I started using that iPod Touch and started doing Instagram. And I was bike touring full time, and so I had lots of stuff to take photos of. And and I think I was fortunate that I was in like the first wave of cycling Instagrammers, and so yeah, it really took off pretty quick. I think it was within probably the first year, I kind of had a feeling that it was going to turn into something. And what it was going to be, I had no idea. But I knew at the very least I was going to be able to, get a job at a bike shop or something. I don't know. So yeah, and it just kept on going from there. And never did I think that it would be, where it is now. But yeah, it's fun to think back, and every once in a while look back on those like heavily filtered, iPod photos and
right.
And it all
Yeah, well, it's cool that you've been able to turn it into a business and at least
Empire.
have it like
Let's call it what it is. It's a global empire. Yeah.
global empire. I think what's interesting is you've been able to kind of leverage. Well, I'll use the word celebrity for lack of better terms to actually create some interesting products. Can you talk about some of the partnerships you've had with like Swift and with the folks at Crust and stuff?
Yeah, yeah. I've always been pretty opinionated on my product choices and things like that, and having a platform to actually this is funny. I actually so 10 years ago I was kind of thinking over, whoa, what am I going to do with my life? I'm working on a fishing boat, and I'm just like burying cash or whatever I'm just like I don't know what I'm going to do with this. Like I want to find a piece of land somewhere and just like set up on it and do whatever. And so I was like saving up for that, and I was like, this is going to take forever. I can't do this. I'm like, well, why don't I just go and like camp in places and like pretend that it's my own land, and out west, of course, there's the huge, this national forest everywhere. When I figured that out, I was like, oh, I could stay here for weeks and go completely undetected, and it's not private property. That's awesome. And so I was like, well, I'm still going to probably need a job. And so my plan was that I was going to move to Morgan Hill and like, so I don't think I've ever said this in public. I said I was going to go camp somewhere in Morgan Hill and try to get a job as a janitor at Specialized. This is like Goodwill Hunting stuff. And so I was going to go get a job as a janitor at Specialized and work my way up until I was like a designer or something, and so that's a true story. So yeah, I've always wanted to make products, and I've championed myself an idea man, and beyond the ideas I can't really can't actualize. And so since the last 3 years, since I've been able to not work, I don't have to work on the boat anymore. I'm a full-time, professional cyclotourist. So I've had this free time to kind of focus more on the products, which has been, and more money to invest in the products too. And it's been awesome to actually have, I've had ideas my whole life and to actualize them finally,
Right.
at 21 years old, to finally actualize.
That's pretty good to do that under 30.
And the thing with Swift, I think that was really the what really opened my mind up to what's possible. I didn't really think those bags were gonna. I didn't, I had been using that Carrot Ice long flap camper on the front of my bike for a while, and I was like, no, this is really pretty sweet, and you could do this without a rack, but the thing just collapses in. It's not quite right, doesn't keep the elements out the way I want it to. So like I had in my brain that total redesign, when you're just riding your bike all day and looking at a bag, the idea is just, and ask Martina, too many ideas. So, so to be able to, so I was talking on the phone. I guess the first thing was with Matt. I met Matt from Crust Bikes, and he came up to Connecticut for a few weeks while one of those instances when I was out with Lyme disease and actually couldn't ride my bike. So he just came and we talked for like 3 days about products, and he's trying to start this bike company, and he wanted to do a frame with me, and that was when we did the preliminary design for the Romancer. And I wanted those handlebars that we still quite have perfect yet, or in stock anywhere, but I wanted those handlebars. And so he's like, and then, so yeah, I guess this all kind of happened at once. And then so during that trip, he was talking on the phone to Martina and just handed the phone to me. And so, Martina, Benedict here wants to make bags, and they're like, hand me the phone. I was like, well, hi, Martina. And she was so cool, and like so with it and on it immediately. I think like within that first month I had a prototype, and I was like, wow, I can't believe this, and it worked awesome, and so she was so behind it, and she's so good at staying organized with time frames, and this is the stuff that I really needed to start actualizing. um, Idea man to actualize without the help of specialized being a janitor. I needed this. So she really helped me get myself organized, and the bag was. We did the first pre-order, and they sold out in. It was nuts. It was 5 hours.
Oh wow.
So 50 bags,
Yeah.
and I was just like blown away at the response from people, that they wanted this stuff, and so that just got me thinking more and more about other things, and so as I think the Romancer came out, that was real fun. That's continues to be fun. Still, in my opinion, it's my favorite bike that I own, and just feels great. It's a great bike, and it's different, and I think it fits a nice niche in the market. And the handlebars, the leather bars, and then the towel rack, and whatever. They have as many names as me, I guess, but that's really that's really what I'm most into, is getting the handlebars right, because you think about the handlebars make the bike, that changes a bike entirely, and it's all about switch your handlebars, or your bike becomes totally different. You get a new bike without having to buy a new bike, and I've always wanted really, really wide handlebars and really wide drop bars. With my wrist issues and just riding longer miles, I feel like the drop bar is just superior, just to have all those hand positions. But forever we've been, drop bars have been a road bike thing, and they have not released themselves from the tradition of road racing. Obviously, you're going to go road. You're not going to, contest in a field sprint with a handlebar that's almost 70 millimeters wide. Centimeters? So they made the road bike bars were, drop bars were narrow because of that. You got to get your way through the peloton, and anything wider would be totally dangerous and also less aerodynamic.
Right.
So I think like a huge part of this whole of why touring's become popular too is because the touring bike isn't performance based, it's comfort based. And you could have a lot of fun with your bike if you're trying to optimize it for comfort. And are really wide handlebars performance wise? Are they fast? Like, I don't. That's not the point. It's comfort and fun, and that's what's going to bring cycling to the masses. And so like when we got those first wide drop bars in, Matt called me up and he's like, he was in New Jersey and I was in Connecticut. I'll try to do my best. And he goes, I got these bars in, but I can't even get them on the train. I'll bring them up to you, mate, but I can't get them on the train. And sounds just like that. And so I was like, bring them up anyway. And he brought them up, and he like put them in my hands. I was like, oh my God, this is so stupid. And then I put them on my bike, and I like pedaled out of the driveway, and I was like, oh yes, this is it. This is it. And I haven't looked back ever since, and my bikes haven't looked the same ever since either. It's kind of been like aesthetically, it's been a while. It's been a little bit for me to wrap my head around, how funky those things look. But I think I'm there now. They look normal, and the more you ride bars like that, you're just like, well, it's just going to be a matter of time before this is like a normal thing, and that kind of excites me that you can contribute like that. There's ways to contribute like that for small guys to contribute like that, and because of the way our social networking, like what do they call it? Our friend community, like within our friend economy, within social media, that little guys are able to release products, and have free not free. I don't know what you want to call it, but direct advertising to the consumer, and you can. It's an incredible world as long as the internet stays free.
Yeah, I think it's interesting in that, like, it used to be, the bikes that we got seemed to be dictated by, people in the pro peloton. But we're at this interesting time where, the tail's wagging the dog. that the brands are actually looking to, people in the social media space to kind of dictate product, which I think it's cool because we're finally getting the cool bikes and cool bike parts that we actually want.
Yeah. Oh, exciting! We live in the best and worst of times right now.
Yeah, that is for sure. So do you consider yourself a bike tourist or a bike packer? And is there a difference, or is it semantics?
Semantics. After I did that Philly Bike Expo talk, I start talking, and especially in front of a lot of people, I don't know what I'm saying. Nam told me afterwards. She's like, "You said it like 6 times that you not dislike, you hate the term bike packing." And I really do. I really do.
Well, what are the connotations for you?
When I think of bike packing, I think of the wagging boner bag, and I can't be one to, like, my bikes look so funky nowadays. I can't be one to talk, but in my purest days of when I was, riding with dirt drops in a basket and like a carrot ice or something, like that was my like bike packing setup.
Right.
And it looked sweet, like that Clockwork 2.9er was such a hot looking bike. Mm-hmm. And that was like my interpretation of like the boner bag setup. And so I was able to carry plenty of stuff and not be like wicked minimalist, and able to travel at a decent speed, and it was reliable, and then and I would ride with other people who had similar setups and things like that, and then I started noticing like the very, I don't know, not well put together bicycles with the stuff. It's just essentially a mountain bike with stuff strapped to it, mm-hmm. and that thing wagging in the back like you're behind the person, like you're trying to just ride. All you see is this thing wagging at you all day long, and you'll hate that term after you. So I associate bike packing with a little bit more of but this is all bunk now. This is like early days. I've totally changed. I've changed my mind, which I'll go into after I talk about this. But I just associate, when I hear that term bike packing, I associate it with jock packing, like somebody who's out there trying to like calm everything and try to fit, like Snickers bars, like that's the only thing that can fit inside their packs, and they can't get to them during the day, so they just have like, why stop? I can't even find my food. I'm just going to go and do 200 miles a day and just turn my brain into a lizard, and so that's not what I want to promote, and I think that's realistic to promote to anyone else, and I think that's kind of like it's like something that somebody with a very like, it's like destination, like someone who's very keyed into the destination rather than the journey of the tour.
Well, for me, it's always felt like, it's if you took bike touring and made it into a sport.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's very more athletic oriented, performance based. And like, I've never, like, I don't bike tour to do that. So it's, it didn't fully gel with it completely either in the beginning. There's some things I've kind of adopted, but I think still like, I can't be that minimalist when I go touring.
And there's something about I came from a backpacking, like a minimalist backpacking background. And, but there's something that really, I feel like that really matters when you're carrying all the weight on your back. Mm-hmm. When you're carrying the weight on your bike, you can get away with a lot more. And there's just certain things that are silly, and if you're eating, oatmeal if you're eating, example is like the Quaker oatmeal packets. If you're just pouring water into your Quaker oatmeal packets and eating that for breakfast in the morning, you're probably a bike packing. If you pack up your camp at sunrise and you're out, and I run into trouble with this because I'm a huge fan of Lael Wilcox and have been for a long time, and that's her style, and so like I'm not, it's not like an attacker anyways, it's cheeky, but I could say like people who tend to do that kind of touring are, generally not, it's not like something realistic for other people to get into, and not like a stepping point for people to start enjoying the backcountry. You're going to probably have a really awful time, You got to some comforts out there with you. And so, but at the same time, people doing the like fast packing, like just out there turning it into a sport, like Lael Wilcox, like she's incredibly inspiring and so important and crucial in whatever this turns into, So I with that, but the like cringe from the bike packing thing turns back to just my like other touring friends that I guess curmudgeon touring friends that I've heard of bike packing. We used to call it touring, or like, I think I've also heard that like bike packing was actually like the term, like it's not a new term. There's magazines that have published the term like in the 70s, and it was like, or 80s, and it was like the squares would use bike packing as the term, like that was like the square thing to say, like, and it's a much less romantic term. You're touring and you see like, ooh, touring, or I don't know. So I ran into a little trouble with that because one of my favorite websites is bikepacking.com. So and Logan after that talk emailed me. He's like, "Great talk, but why the hate on bike?" Like, ooh, did I say that many times? Sorry, Logan. I don't mean, it's cheeky. So it's the term that came out on top, and it's here to stay. So I just got to live with it.
Yeah. Like, what do you think? Like, since you've got such a big persona online, do you ever feel constrained by that UltraRomance box?
Yeah, no, I don't, not yet, but I can perceive that happening. But this is the real fun part. If at any time I want to be done with this, all I got to do is cut my hair and shave my beard, and I could just do my own. No one will even know it was me. I could just vanish.
Yeah. They wouldn't recognize you.
No, they don't want to recognize me. Yeah. So, let's put on some sunglasses, and another 2 years, people won't even remember me. I'll be good. So, it's ever evolving, I don't like to be, I'm not the type of person that wants to be the same person every day, like I don't want, I don't want that. I want to be evolving. If the second I stop evolving, I'm not living anymore, So, it's going to change. And that's just the way it's going to be. I think it's going to, I always look forward to the future because I know that this is my path. And this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm not, as my age crawls up there, I'm just going to get better at it. So
once you hit 25, you'll be.
I'm 25. I should be pretty good.
What do you think are the biggest misconceptions people have about you?
That's a good question. Misconceptions, I guess, would be, I get a lot of times when I meet people, they're like, I didn't realize, like, I didn't think that you would be such a nice guy, or be like, and I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, oh, these people I meet like from the internet or whatever, like, or you go into a bike shop and you meet some, like the bike industry is full of dudes that are just aggro, just like, anybody who's gone into a bike shop and like wanted to ask a simple question and felt totally intimidated by everyone in there can relate to that. And I want to be like a source that people can ask about hacking bikes and like doing things that mechanics would tell you absolutely not to do, or make money for doing it. And I like to be that guy that I didn't, I don't want to be intimidating. I want to be able to answer questions in like a human, and not scare people away. And because the idea is to bring more people into this, and not polarize. But so yeah, I guess people are surprised that I'm nice, I guess.
Well, I was watching Matt's recording like early on. You're like, and this is proof I can read.
That's right. They're surprised I can read.
Well, there's so much. I feel like, especially with Instagram, sometimes people don't even read the caption. So like everything's like kind of all your projections, your biases are kind of, encapsulated in just like a single photo. And there's a lot that's left out in the photo, a lot of context, and
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, you get a certain idea of somebody from, I guess you and I are probably from the last generation that will really critique like modern friendship, and because we've had both sides.
Yeah.
And what we think is weird right now is absolutely the norm. This is modern friendship. This is the way the world works now, and
right.
You got to embrace it. And I think that's also another thing that people misconceive about me, is that I'm like primitivist, and I just, well, I'm not. I think you got to take equal. I like to have, I think it's important to have, to balance your screen time with fire watching or something. Think of its equivalent, but that you can balance it, and there's no point in resisting the technological changes in this world, and as long as we protect the free land and things like that, other than that stuff, the technological changes is you just got to go with it. And it's been great for me. I've embraced it, and not I've met so many wonderful people, over the internet. Internet friend dating, and it really kind of denatures the whole bike nerd experience, because you suddenly have an entire community of people that are you already have something in common, and it takes away that awkward first step of talking to somebody, which I could be okay at that sometimes, but a lot of people, they've had great anxieties their entire lives just striking up a conversation with somebody. And if you could start it on the internet and then maybe meet someone in real life, or not even, just have exchange, be pen pals or whatever, I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, it's interesting, like the whole, social media is, fascinating for that aspect, making, finding your tribe online, and being able to, have these friendships. It's also interesting, like, kind of enables interesting new jobs. Like we've had our website it's coming on 10 years, and we've been able to hack a living together for like the last 8, solely on that, which is
cool.
Bonkers.
Yeah, I know. Bonkers. Yeah.
So have you been able to, is it, you mentioned, full-time professional cycle tours. Have you been able to cobble an income and like something sustainable with, your brand, your personal brand, or whatever?
Yes, definitely. That's been incredibly rewarding, because since I was 16, my income was working on my father's boat, and I didn't particularly like it. I liked the free time that it afforded me, which is how I was able to get a foot in this stuff, in the first place, was just having 6 months off to go ride my bike, and but I didn't want to. I was like, I could always fall back on that, I suppose. And it's always there if I go totally broke while there's still fish in Long Island Sound. But but at the but at the same time, again, when I was thinking about the going back to moving to Morgan Hill and Goodwill Hunting at Specialized.
You can just leave bike designs on their whiteboard in the middle of the night.
Exactly. Yeah. 64 degrees, 70. I just you get this epiphany where you're like, I don't want kids. There's no rush. I don't have any rush for what I want to do. I'm not. I don't have someone else's life to dedicate myself to. I'm going to dedicate myself to myself, and I'm going to do what I always wanted to do. And that was like a real epiphany for me, and realizing that like I could try as hard as I can at this, and it's either going to work or not. And if it doesn't work, no big deal. It's not like I have a mouth to feed other than my own.
Right.
And so it's kind of afforded me that mentality afforded me a lot of risk taking, and so I've just just put myself out there, and it's paid off, and it's great to have. I have an income from Specialized, which is another. I always thought I was going to be a professional mountain bike racer, like maybe racing for Specialized, like my Hero Net Overend, and now, but I realized how much work there was going to have to be put into that. When I made it halfway up the hill climb at Fort Lewis and quit.
This is a much better arrangement, it sounds like.
Yeah. So now I'm a professional cyclist with the best arrangement. I'm a professional camper. So that's been pretty trippy. So yeah, I get my income from Specialized, and they perceive that their adventure line is their fastest growing line in their whole in whatever their whole business. So with adventure cycling growing the way it is, they see it like in 5 years overtaking road racing. So I hear that, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm here at the right time. Like this is gonna be good if I'm still into that stuff by then. I'm could be back to bodybuilding, but beard or hair. So through Specialized, and then through making bags, and through doing stuff with Matt, and selling little things like the Randy Joe caps, and I've got some other clothing projects in the works with. Between all that, it's a great living. It's more than I was making on the boat. Working really hard. Yeah. Just working hard in a way that is where my aptitude is with doing this kind of stuff, and I'm able to just get a lot better results. Right. For the time that I put in, which is ultimately what we're all looking for, to be proud of what you've done at the end of the day that's fulfilling. So yeah, I feel very fulfilled.
Yeah, that's awesome that you've been able to, turn, what you do online into an income. I mean, I think that's like a huge challenge, and something like a lot of people don't appreciate, like, what it takes to make that happen.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's wrap up, but before I do, I want to do some a lightning round with some reader questions. Let's see what people came up with. I queried people on.
Real.
What's that?
All real. No implants here.
Favorite hair conditioner?
I don't wash my hair. That's very delicate. But everything beautiful is also delicate. So when I do wash my hair, it's maybe when I'm in the desert like this, it's every 2 months or so. And I brush it with a very fine hairbrush each night that I treated myself to for my birthday this past year. It's a hairbrush from England, and it's very expensive.
Cool.
Very expensive. So
is it expensive?
Very. And so I brush my hair with that each night, and the natural oils in my hair that's what conditions them. And then I wake up in the morning, give it a little fruff, and $1 million later, this is what I look like. But something with argan oil if I do wash it.
Cool. So someone else asked, how'd you meet Nam?
Nam is actually she's 5 years younger than me, but from the same area in Connecticut. And one particular year, before I fully retired from the boat, I tried to work just for a month on the boat intensively and take the rest of the year off and just ride my mountain bike around the Southwest. And I had been doing that, and it was turning into like a little bit like over the, like there's a line between like, being like a bike touring bum, like, and then going full homeless.
Right.
Like there's a line, like when, and every once, I've toyed with that line a number of times, where you're like, you haven't bathed in a month, and you got like the dirt stains all on the back of your neck, and your clothes are all patched, and you like accidentally slept, and you like accidentally fell into dog poop, and you had no way to wash it off, and, and I was experiencing that. And so I remember I talked to my mom on the phone. She's like, sounds like you need to come home for a little bit. And so I did for a month. I came home in October, which is the best month to be in Connecticut. And Num had just moved back from Virginia, and I had never met her before, but we had a mutual friend, and she came over to borrow a bike from him while I was over there. And I just kind of kept on hollering, and she finally responded. And yeah, we went on our first date, and then kind of had an open relationship for about a year, and then realized that we deeply loved one another and wanted to be together exclusively. So that's been the last 3 years or so.
Cool.
So yeah, we met in Connecticut of all places. For a month. Here I am. I think it was because of that open relationship that I was able to be myself and not have it, because I'd always been kind of guarded prior to that when I would meet women, because I didn't want to settle. I just had to be clear that I don't want to settle down, like I'm on the move and things like that. It's fine for her at the beginning because she had other boyfriends, and so that was fine. Yeah. It's fine. So I got trapped.
Yeah. Cool.
But for the good.
So what's next for you? What can we expect in 2018? Anything interesting?
Yeah, let's see, in 2018, I hope to finally have the final version of my handlebar released. A huge number, because the minimum was just nuts. Matt, God bless him, he dumped whatever plumbing money that he had scraped up over. Pretty much the entire asset of crust has gone into this handlebar.
Yeah.
Says if he sells out of them in 5 years, then he'll finally start making a profit on them, I think. So the handlebar, hopefully that when we have that ready in numbers, that'll really change the way people ride their drop bar bikes. And on top of that, I have a few video projects that I'm working on with a number of different channels. Yeah, I'd really like to do more video. I think that's definitely. I don't want to actually make video. I want to be in them. Yeah. If you're out there, you want to make a video? I'm here for you.
Right. Cool. Well, on that note, we'll wrap up. So I hope you guys like this video. If you guys have any suggestions for future guests, leave those in the comments below. And if you guys liked it, be sure to give it a thumbs up, share, subscribe. And thank you so much, Benedict, for being on our channel.
Thank you, Russ. And thank you, universe.
Nice.